I'm addicted to you, hooked on your love, like a powerful drug. I can't get enough of. Lost in your eyes, drowning in blue, out of control. What can I do? I'm addicted to you.
GM, everybody. Hey, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Takeoff Tuesday. Glad you're all here. We got an exciting time. We are halfway through July, and it's work time. As you can see by my very detailed artistry back here, we got 100 days. 100 days until E3. And then I also want to implore and remind everyone, watch your classes. The market is shifting. This up-only thing is over. Okay, especially in certain markets. Texas, Florida, Arizona, Nevada. Be careful. Be careful. Look at the numbers. Look at the bigger trends. And watch your classes. Watch your classes on foreclosures. Watch your classes on short sales. Watch your classes on negotiations. You're going to find some amazing deals as real estate starts to get less attracted to the mainstream. A bunch of amateurs are going to leave the market. There's going to be a lot more deals for you guys to scoop up, but only if you can recognize them. So watch your classes, prioritize your competence, and change your life. All right. And spread that message to all the new students that you find along your journey here. Okay, so GM. Quick quote of the day. Quote of the day is, don't be intimidated by what you don't know. It can be your greatest strength and ensure you do things differently from everyone else. Don't be intimidated by what you don't know. That could be your greatest strength and ensure you do things differently than everyone else. Yes, except for in real estate, not knowing something will not be your greatest strength. I get where Sarah's coming from, but in this regard, please watch your classes. Don't be surprised. And the person who knows the most will win every negotiation. So study up. Okay, as a reminder, we have some house tours, cash flow games. We got some epics. We got a lot happening. And then, of course, we got our Saturday house tour with Scott Buckholtz and Umair at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Property tour on Wednesday in Salt Lake. It's going to be a good one. And then the 6:30 networking event with Mitch and Maley. And then David and Denisha are also doing a workshop in Vernal. So big week. Texas is still doing their stuff. Long Island's got their thing going on. Denver study group. Awesome. Yep. Yep, it's working. Okay, remember to check out this property tour. You guys are going to love it. And then we have a Utah-only ATM. So for those who can attend in person, it's an in-person only. Richard said, it's great working with the nation, but sometimes we just got to put it, get it hands-on, in person. So anyway, here's what it is. It's $248. And if you complete all of the homework assignments, you receive a $150 deposit back. So the training is really $100. and you're making a $150 deposit, complete all the work, get your refund. He's being very generous here. When I joined, it was $600. $600 in 2011 dollars. It's 2025. Do you realize what's happened with inflation? $610 is like 1,000. No, it's like 1,400 today dollars. Anyway, my point is, Richard's making it very cheap, but if you can participate, I highly, highly recommend it. They'll be doing Fridays in the evenings. Recording, meet in person, role play, meet in person. Okay. So anyway, you top peeps out there, you want to get ready for the E3 and be able to cash in on that, then but you're feeling behind on scripts, what to say, how to posture, go to ATM. Then one other thing I wanted to show on the calendar, make sure we're all aware, we got the first flip challenge accelerator. The reason there's two on here is because one is for registration and one is for student registration. Okay, but definitely bring guests to the accelerator. I'll find out which special presenter they're having join. Jason Andrus, there we go. Okay, so that is this Saturday. No, I'm just kidding. Registration opens this Saturday. It is the first Saturday of August at corporate. Oh, even better. Okay, so always be checking the calendar. Yep, 2 weeks to the accelerator. So you want to get a few people involved in the challenge. Well, remember, they can only participate in the challenge if they have their combo. So we'll make a lot more combo sales. So there we go. Okay, GM. All right. As a reminder, there are also some video library assets for you to put in your emails, texts, social posts, hundreds of pieces of content in the video library. So much content, it takes a minute to load. There are class previews, student success stories, testimonials, what do we call it? Generally speaking, it's a great, useful video. So, all right. Okay, internet is lagging. Sorry about that. Okay. GM. Watch your classes. Share the message. Let's get into it. Take Off Tuesday with Bill Predebon. It's a special day. Please mark on your calendars with the reminder recurring every Tuesday. We don't skip. Luckily, there's not very many Tuesday holidays. But Bill has been a part of our morning training call, a part of Team Elevate, a part of this culture and this system that we've been working on for almost 10 years now. He's been involved with Renatus and Bob Snyder and Jay Stark and the whole crew for, if I'm remembering correctly, 16, 17 years, something like that. He went off on a journey, created a boatload of success for himself, but realized doing real estate by yourself is just not as fun as doing it with the community. And so he decided, you know what, not only am I going to come back and do it with the community, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to be a trainer. I'm going to be a 5-star creator. I'm going to help people move through the ICM process. And he grew one of the biggest teams in the nation in Arizona. He flew around the country. He's helped speak and train at several other markets. And then just recently was asked by Mr. Snyder to design a class on new construction, ground up, how to organize workflows and crews and make the best of this new wave of real estate investing. So go and check that out in the back office. from the ground up. And we're honored to have Mr. Bill Predebon here with an amazing Takeoff Tuesday. Now, folks, one thing I like about Takeoff Tuesdays, it's open for all questions, all topics, all what ifs. So if you run into a scenario, an agent said something, you heard a mortgage broker, come back with something, you heard a rumor, you don't know what to make of it, or maybe you're trying to settle a contract, with somebody, and maybe a lease option, something. This is Takeoff Tuesday is a perfect time. One thing I love listening to Bill do is break down the problem and create a solution. And he's a fantastic investor, a great coach, a great friend, a great mentor, a great leader with some vision. So let's give a big warm welcome to the man of the hour, Mr. Bill Predebon, GM. Welcome, Bill. So like I said, everybody, if you have a question, you can type it in the chat, come off mute. If you want us to look at some deals, to be clear though, we're not going to start from scratch with a deal. You're not going to send an address and say, is this a good deal? That's not what we're here for. We are not going to be outsourced to thinking. But if you've done your preliminary work and it looks like a deal and you started a conversation and now you don't know where to go from here, perfect. Or you need some what if scenarios, role playing, and apparently Bill had to go walk the dog. Where did Bill go? Bill, you there? Let me check the chat. GM. There he is. All right.
I went and filled my coffee.
Perfect. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
All right, folks. Well, go ahead, put your questions in the chat, come off of mute, and let's see what kind of magic we can create. Like I was saying earlier, Bill has experience in the marketing side. He's made over $500,000 on his way to $1 million just from marketing, as well as all the real estate success from coast to coast and all different kinds of real estate. Remember, short sales, fix and flips, wholesaling, lease options, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, land development, subdivisions, seller finance notes. Have you done an auction, Bill? Have you gone to an auction and bought a property at an auction before?
Yeah, I started in well, in '08, but in '09, they changed the law for double escrowing short sales. And I'll tell you, that was the Wild West back then. And you got the way I did these short sales, it's just unbelievable what was possible. Yeah, then, it was October 25th, I think, of 2008. 2,500 properties in Phoenix went for sale on auction that day. It was like,
Wow.
yeah, it was the biggest auction day ever. But you guys, people couldn't even buy all the properties that were up for auction in Phoenix. But I bought a ton. That's why I laugh at that. If you ever watch that show, the guy's pretty rich. I mean, he's a Doug Hopkins and a couple other guys in Phoenix, but they would do the auction show and the houses would be boarded up. First of all, there's very few houses that are boarded up unless they're condemned. But you're like, oh, we don't go in. I mean, we broke into every house. I would never buy a house at auction without seeing the property. I mean, you'd need to know if the copper was still there, if the electric was still there. I mean, you couldn't just assume it's a cosmetic remodel, especially during those times. So yeah, we would view the house the day before or the morning of, depending, because in Phoenix the auction is at 10 and then it's at 2. So it depends on when it was. And there's 2 auction blocks. Most of them are done downtown, and then there's a private attorney that the biggest attorney in town for real estate does them also at his office. But it's a public auction. It's not a private auction. Yeah, the ground up course was released, I think, yesterday, actually. So I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna go check out the back office and take a look at the class.
Yeah, I was talking to Umair earlier, and he said he's already watched his own class 3 times.
That's fun. I could see him doing that.
Yeah. Um,
We won't watch my class 3 times.
yeah, that's totally understandable.
Um,
But cool. Yeah, we got some new people on the call here. So if you guys
oh,
want to type in what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish, or what type of real estate you're working on, we can expand on that. I know we got uh some newbies joining us and some veterans coming back. It's great to see you all.
yeah,
Uh,
by default, this is a marketing call, and we've twisted it with some real estate. We were doing a dream call, which we're revamping the system for the fall here, coming up prior to E3. So
that's right. We're cooking, guys.
but if you want to know, if you're interested in taking a call like this and taking your real estate to the marketing level, if that makes sense, that transition, we try to bring it back and relate our conversations to real estate, I mean, to marketing, so that you can take advantage of what you're learning here or what you're discussing. So, but if you do have, yeah, I mean, if we've got some, we've definitely got some new people and some veterans, like you said. So, I don't know if anybody's got anything on their mind. Even if it's theoretical or in the future or in the past, it doesn't necessarily have to be something you're working on today, something something that you know uh for whatever reason, the common theme is, people, I don't know if stuck's the right word, but there are humps, there are peaks and valleys all the time in all kinds of business, especially real estate. And even when we have some successes and some milestones, then we end up back in a bit of a valley, with another hurdle, another obstacle. So, if that's the case, we can walk through that too. So, I mean, I constantly go through them all the time.
Yeah, an important question to ask yourself is what story am I telling myself about my life? And is it empowering me or holding me back? And we see it in the program here. The people who design the story they tell themselves versus the people who let their childhood and their goofy fantasies tell them the story about their life. Two different levels of power you can have. So that's a good question to ask. So there you go.
How do you transition from a person you met at a networking event to someone you invite to an intro?
So Jasmine is active on the marketing. She goes to a lot of networking events. I know her goal is residential multifamily, duplex, triplex, fourplex. And but she also wants some of that marketing money. So she says, how do you go from a networking event to an invite to an intro? To her, it feels awkward, especially if we have only had a mild real estate discussion.
So I got a couple answers for this, Jasmine, and uh, and then we'll kind of look at it. So number one is, if you're going to networking events for the purpose of collecting leads, then that's your goal there, right? So it sounds like, you met someone at a networking event, and I'm assuming you're gathering information, right? You're having a mild concussion, a mild discussion with that individual there, I'm assuming. And then I'm hoping you are gathering digits, right? You're getting contact info, not giving contact info, but getting it. Number one. Number two, and then I'm also hoping that, and I shouldn't say hoping, in my opinion, in my experience, I am not doing any type of soliciting or marketing at the actual event, right? That would be on the follow-up call, right? The contact call after the event, after you've exchanged contact information. Um, Number one. Number two, like, and then, you know, there is a a difference. And even in Michael's question, right? Who are we showing up as? Like, it just depends on what your goal is, like, or what your mindset is. If you're looking to create connections and relationships and things like that, and develop, potential future whatever from that person, then you might develop the relationship over time before you introduce Renatus and an intro. But if your goal is to market and reach the most amount of people in the fastest amount of time, and you have a conversation with somebody at a networking event, hopefully more than one person, um, then I would set a time to follow up with those people within 3 to 5 days of that marketing networking event, and I would call them on purpose, right? With a delivery, a script, if you will, or at least a mindset of getting them to an intro, or asking the right questions to get the right answers that you're looking for. So you have you're asking a question driven conversation where you control the conversation in order to have people tell you what it is they're looking for, right? And then you can present the opportunity for them to see something that you're interested in. Or you can also utilize, a tactic where, you know, you share your experience with something, and you, like, as if you went to a movie and you saw it, and you bring it up at the right time, and you're like, hey, have you ever seen this movie? It's about this. Oh my God, it's so exciting. It's so cool that you mentioned it. And then in this case, you'd be describing Renatus or education or a community or something you learned. And then you'd ask them if they are interested in learning that or seeing that or experiencing that as well. So that would be it. But if you're looking to take more time and that's your style, then I would contact them. I would ask them to go to coffee. Hey, you want to get together, exchange, war stories, talk about what you're doing, just hang out. And I don't know if backdoor approach is the right word, but you become acquaintances and friends and colleagues first, and then you'd introduce Renatus. That's a longer process, but it may be more effective, but it's less efficient. And it just depends on what type of marketer you want to be. If I was doing it, my experience is I would try to do the latter, and it takes forever, and you waste a lot of time with a lot of tire kickers. No offense. And I would prefer just to be someone who wants to get the information and be a spokesperson, a salesperson for Renatus, get them in front of the information as fast as possible and let them make their own decision. And I think that's perhaps less effective, but it's more efficient, and I think more people will join because of it. But you've got to be good at networking too, right? So you can't go to a networking event and meet one or two people and then have one lunch and have that person not even go to the intro, or ghost you, or does go to the intro and says no. Then you got to start all over. If we're networking 2 or 3 times a week and we're gathering 10 or 12 or 15 pieces of information, uh, contact information, and then you're getting 10 to 15 leads, up to 30 leads a week from networking events, and you can knock it out. You can make 5 or 6 calls in an hour every day to those people. Steve, if I was, I don't know if that helps, Jasmine, and maybe comment back and see if you have a deeper dive into that conversation, because it can go a long way. If anybody else has any thoughts on that or has experience in network marketing, networking for leads, feel free to chime in. Whether you could chat it or come off mute, it's totally fine. Obviously, I can dig a little deeper into that answer as well. But I can promise you, it does feel awkward. Because in our minds, you've got an agenda. It's a sales agenda. You want someone to spend money, and they want to learn for free. You want someone to join your community, see what you've seen, experience what you've experienced, with good intentions, because you feel like it's the best education around. But these folks are going to networking events to, perhaps learn the business, grow the business, network, because that's what they were told to do by whoever they studied under, whether it was a YouTube video or a guru video tape or something like that. And they're out networking because they think that's the way to. And their thought is networking is free. It doesn't cost anything, and so you're trying to bridge that gap. So it's going to be awkward, right? It's going to be awkward right up until um, decide it's not. If people are looking for real estate and they're going to real estate business networking events, then if we've got the mindset that you know education and real estate investing in business is not free, that there's two options, right? Pay for it up front or pay for it in the out in the streets. Then that mindset means that it's not awkward to introduce people to what you feel is the best product. Let's see, Steve, who's doing foreclosure marketing? In my opinion, Steve, I don't know who's doing it. Maybe anybody else can chime in. I haven't done foreclosure marketing in a while, but when I do it, I simply buy a list. It's as easy as that. You can sort the list. Today's day and age, you can just use the iOS software. Um, and I would absolutely target market. If you're looking for low equity, but subject to type deals where you can get a pre-foreclosure before it goes to auction, and you can catch up the mortgage and take over the property subject to, and pay off the seller a few bucks to take over their house. That's an option. If you're looking to buy at auction, then I'm looking for properties with high equity, one mortgage, making sure that the mortgage is the first mortgage that is foreclosing and not the second or third. And then I'm going to see the house. I'm tracking down the house, and I'm running comps, and then I'm going to the auction with a $10,000 check in my hand. And I don't know how it works in your states, but I know how it works in mine. So, but I'm always using a list, just a current list that I pay. I pay for the iOS software, so it's 125 a month. Um, I hope that helps. I don't. Yeah, I mean, unless, like I said, if you're looking to get ahead of the foreclosure, then I would absolutely door knock. I would use that list to door knock. And if you know Jared Brenchley, you might want to call him. He's a wholesaler, but he probably does use a pre-foreclosure list for some of his leads, would be my guess. Laura, you're right. My financial situation was pretty interesting at the time I decided to do Renatus. But I was looking, right? So I can go over that a little bit for those of you who don't know. Is real estate, if you had to do it all over again, what is something you recommend for someone who's starting? Is real estate investing something people should do on the side and keep their 9 to 5 with smaller salary? This is a great question. Um, this is so I have strong opinions about this, and obviously it's different for everybody. People also have different experiences. I use Tony and Gavin. Gavin's our coach. Tony and Gavin were partners back in the day. They were our first short sales instructors. They were related through marriage as well, I believe, and they were living in a very modest camper. So I think Gavin was married and Tony was living or vice versa, and they were on each other's property. I think one of them had a property, one of them had a camper. They went to a bunch of foreclosure short sale events to learn short sales, and then they saved up 40 grand, and they figured they had 4 months to close a deal. So they put aside money to live on and to do or die, kind of burn the bridges kind of thing. And that was it. They were going to do this, make it work, or get a job. I don't know that they had children at the time. I'm not sure. And perhaps they had their spouses on board with this choice. So it paid off. When I look back and I look at Chris Wilson, one of my coaches, one of my idols, one of my mentors, one of our, one of the best instructors we have. Well, they're all great, but one that I learned from very early on. He worked for he had a very good job with Lucent Technology, and he did real estate nights and weekends. He was also a fixer guy, so he did a lot of work on the properties. And he did real estate for nearly 5 years before he quit his job. He was making more money in real estate, uh, twice as much money in real estate part-time than he was in a full-time global sales position at Lucent. So that's an extreme on that end where, but he had a big family to take care of. Um, and he had priorities and he didn't want to get burned. He didn't want to quit his job. So my suggestion is, and it's hard because I didn't do it this way. But I think number one is keeping a job is important for a couple reasons. It enables you not to have the stress, um, you know, for making a marketing sale or closing a deal. Um, that's number one. That's pretty obvious. You've got money coming in, so but you have lack of time. Time really isn't of the essence in developing a real estate business. It can be done part time, especially with the right knowledge. So this is critical. The other thing is having a job keeps your ability to borrow money very high, especially if you have good credit or you can build your credit and then you can prove income with a job, and that goes a long way in borrowing money, right? Especially at lower interest rates and it's less expensive money. It takes longer to qualify, but if you've got time to refinance subject twos or refinance properties you buy with cash and hard money, then you have a better shot at that quick refi. Quick meaning 30 to 45 days, but it's better than trying to get a DSCR loan. You got to get a good property at a good price and have good rents to get a DSCR loan. With higher loan to value. If you don't know what I'm saying, then just ask me, but I can explain those terms. But so here's what I know. Like number one is real estate is not cheap. Real estate businesses need money, and if you don't have any money, then you're taking a bigger risk, which is fine. It's not a big deal. I don't put a lot of weight on money. I don't put a lot of weight on making mistakes and getting in a hole and leveraging. But there's some stress around that, and there's pressure. So it depends on what your tolerance is of that. What I'm saying is, it's a lot easier to do real estate when you've got your own money. When you own rentals, they are not mailbox money. Mailbox money is a myth, in my opinion, in my experience, right? You will need to pay for repairs. You will have vacancies. You will have evictions. You will have problems. Uh, the good outweighs the bad, especially if you're a good landlord or you hire a good property management company. Um, and if you have good properties in good areas, I don't mean great areas, but in good rental areas where there's less crime and less drugs. Therefore, you may have to buy rentals that are cost more to rent them. But regardless, you are going to need money. When you're doing fix and flips, they go over budget, they go over time, they sell for less than you expect. They cost more to sell than you expect. All of the things, not everyone, and a lot of times, not most of the time, but there are times when you will need money. So if you have jobs and reserves and things like that, it's easier to do real estate, in my opinion. I think real estate should be a side hustle. I think that this is what I think. I think that we need a business that generates more money than you need at the end of the month. So you either get more education and get a better job, you climb the corporate ladder, you get a raise, whatever it is, and you use the Renatus education to reduce debt, to increase credit, right? To Velocity Bank to get lines of credit, to do things, right? You use your job and you put yourself in a good financial position on paper for everybody, right? Including your family. And then you have your job or you start a business. or you have both. And those two incomes create more money than you need at the end of the month. And then instead of going on vacations and spending that money, or budget in vacations and include vacations and spending as part of your monthly bills, and then exceed that with your money, right? Then you take the education and you take your extra money and you invest it in real estate. And you will retire sooner, but you're not going to retire when you're 20 or 30, right? You may not even retire by the time you're 50, but you will retire sooner and you will be able to leave a legacy and you will be able to live wealthier, right? You will have wealth and you will have passive income. And it's not a marathon, in my opinion. I mean, you will probably I will do it forever. I will be doing this a long time. I've only been doing it for 15 years. I plan on doing it for another 15 years, right? Uh, but but in that first five, realistically 7 to 10 years, you can really make a big difference. And honestly, that's a quarter of the time most of us would expect to be in a job. So in that time frame, you can plan to quit your job in that time frame, right? And so like the cool thing is that you use the education to put yourself in a financial position to be a little bit of a mogul in finance and in real estate, right? Then you study the education and you learn to buy property at discount, so you create equity for your net worth, right? Your financial statement, your net worth looks good, and then you have a little bit of cash flow. These things aren't going to cash flow all the time. $1,000 a month and you buy 10 homes, you got 10 grand a month in. That would be great when you pay them all off. But we're just starting this game, right? And loans are 30 years long. So you can't expect to pay off a $400,000 rental property in 5 years, right? Yeah, there's velocity banking and all that crap, but be realistic, right? Where are you going to get an extra 400 grand? You better be marketing like Mitch and Maley are in the marketing and make an extra 400. But when you're making an extra $400,000 a year in marketing, you also got 200 grand a year in overhead. If you think their business is free, it's not, right? If you think they're coming from a place of abundance, they're not, as far as like where they're making money for a reason, right? It's not all just going in their pocket tax free and they're just living up a life at, 20 grand a month. We have no idea what costs to run businesses, right? What other people's businesses, we know what our businesses cost, but we don't know where people are coming from, right? Um, so anyway, where was I going with this? The cool thing is that we set ourselves up and we start to buy real estate, and we buy it at discounts. We get low interest rates. We know learn how to use DSCR loans. We learn how to do the Burr method. We learn how to improve a property's value by fixing it up a little bit, right? If we need to do a fix and flip and make some quick 20, 30, 40 grand, great. We do a fix and flip on the side. And these one or two properties a year you're buying, and you do an extra fix and flip on the side once or twice a year, or you borrow money or invest in someone else doing the work. Barring no setbacks, which you're going to have, right? You're going to lose 10, 20, 30, 50 grand here or there along the way, in your properties, and things are not going to, I mean, if you guys ever read, I mean, we think Nate lives this amazing life on Facebook, which he truly does, right? But sometimes you read some of his, you have no idea the guy's losing his butt on some properties. We all lose, except for, of course, our short sales instructor now,
Brian Sump.
Brian Sump. Thank you. Yes. But we have a job and we have reserves and we have finances like good credit, lines of credit, whatever we've learned in the Renatus business, essentials courses and such, that we can offset that a little bit, right? We can refinance into, not to take out loans to go, on vacations, but we refinance to get lower interest rates, to pull a little cash out of some of our assets so we can offset some losses, or we can buy another property when a good deal comes along. But doing all of these things while you have no job and you have children is very stressful and probably will lead to divorce, and a lot of heartache. So we'd have to plan that, or we have to have one spouse be on board to not have a job and the other one keeps the job. And that way there's a little security for your family. I was not married when I started real estate. I was also I was in a relationship though, and we had no children. Um, and uh, and I was able to move into her house with her paying the mortgage. I didn't have to pay the mortgage, so I had less overhead, and I had less things to be worried about. I also was never going to be homeless. I had a couple of parents that if I ever ended up homeless, I would not be homeless, right? They wouldn't go buy me a house because they don't have that kind of money, but they would have taken me in or helped me get back on my feet. I also had friends. I knew that if I got in trouble, I could go rely on some of my friends till I got myself. And I also had an education, right, from a college, and I also wasn't too worried about not having any money. Like being broke was not a big deal to me. I'd been broke twice, right? And I knew that there's always a way to make money. So I had that mindset. Um, but I will tell you, if that's the case, how long of a runway does anyone need to start making enough money? I would give yourself at least a year of reserves. So whatever your overhead is, I would say a year with the Renatus education. If you're going to quit your job, you should have a year's worth of resources to live on. And if you expect to put some of your own resources into properties, that should be in addition to your um, your reserves to live on, right? And that depends on if you're raising children or if you have a spouse and you have a higher expense sheet at the end of every month that you need to cover. So here's the other thing, you know, business is important, right? And real estate investing is a business. There, to my knowledge, there is no business that starts without money. Um, the ones that do fail, right? We believe that we have this heart of gold. We have this, ability to, bootstrap it, to, work, grind it out, work it out. Put in the manual labor hours and things, and that's all great. Like, do it. You need to do it anyway. But people borrow money from all kinds of resources to start up a business. There are business expenses. They are tax deductible. There's a reason the IRS allows you to start a business and not turn a profit for 3 years, right? Because they don't expect you to, because it is a business that costs money to get it off the ground. You have to market it. You have to advertise it. You have to build it. You have to buy materials. Then you have to pay professionals to set you up to win, right? You've got to pay lawyers, you've got to pay accountants, you've got to pay marketing professionals. You need money for this. And we go into Renatus and real estate thinking it's free. It doesn't cost anything to go out and door knock. That's crap. That's just not true. And we wonder why it's so hard, because you don't have any money. So you've got to be able to service the debt when you're not making any money and you borrow money to get the business up and running. Like, you've got to have a business plan. And so, I think we've got to understand borrowing money. Like, there's a reason that IPOs and startups go and borrow millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to develop an app and develop thing. It's not just some whim, you know what I mean? And that's why people get in early. They get in before it's public, and they put money into it, and they invest in someone's dream, right? And someone else, has the experience and the knowledge and their boots on the ground, but they don't have the money. They don't even have the time to put in their own money. And usually people that don't have enough money, and they don't know how to borrow money, and they didn't make a very big business plan because they just thought they would make it work with their mind and their heart. And it's not that it doesn't. But all right, I've been beating that question for a while. So I think you got my idea. I don't think it's impossible. In fact, I know it's not impossible because I did it. But I was resourceful and I did borrow money, right? When I borrowed the 20 grand, I borrowed I borrowed a relative's credit in order to get the loan, but I didn't borrow 20 grand to buy the education. I borrowed 30 so I could service the 20 grand debt. And I had extra money, right? And then I quit everything I did and went full time, right? So I had a lot of time on my hands, but it took me 7 months to really make real money at Renatus at real estate, right? And even then, I was so far behind the eight ball, it was ridiculous, right? Um, I also have a real estate program to share. How do I count? Uh, that helps. I'm getting some Texas lists, perfect areas, higher motivated sellers. This is good stuff. I'd love any advice, tips you have on pending divorces and short sales. All right. Great. Okay. So we'll hit that one in just a second. Yeah, that does help. When I get people that also have a real estate investing program to share, oh, how do I counter with Renatus? That's interesting. Um, because my question would be, well, obviously Michael's got something. We the best, yeah. Um, most people, that's weird because most people sharing real estate don't get paid for doing it. I don't know another program that offers that compensation. So you may say, hey, I love your enthusiasm. Obviously, you value real estate education. Um, are you getting paid? Are you a a commissioned salesperson for the company? Is that how you get paid or anything like that? You could counter it with the marketing affiliate marketing offer that we get, right? Would be one. They could make income if they're so enthusiastic and they believe in people getting educated in real estate. That's kind of a leg up already. And now you could offer them our marketing, you know, uh, our compensation plan to counter it with Renatus, right? Or like Michael says, you could do, well, we the best, you could do a comparison. Hey, I'd love to hear what you have. Let's see where we're at. Let's compare apples to apples. Sit down at a Starbucks and go through what they offer and what it costs and what we offer and what it costs and see, who's got the best options, you know? And that's how I would counter it. I would definitely be open to it. I would say, I would love to hear what you have. I would love to see, why you're offering this program. Have you heard of Renatus? Maybe we could compare notes. It would be cool. That's how I would do it. Both of those two ways. Um, so I will say that I have never, so divorces, the leads I get, so I'm very close with I searched out in 2009, I searched out my my title company and I've used them ever since. So I have been with the same title gal since 2009, her and her team. And she's kept her team pretty much the same. There's been her marketing girl's gone and she has a new marketing girl, but other than that, her two main title gals are still with her and she's the queen. And so I follow her wherever she goes. She gives me leads both for Renatus and for divorces. So I'm very close with them. I bring them all my business. I refer all my business to them, and in exchange, they give me now the greatest place to get divorce information. I would say would probably be lawyers, right? Um, and I don't know if there's. I think some of our software offers that on Renatus iOS, but I'm not sure what you mean by tips on short sales. So if you want to, Aubrey, I would love to answer that. If you want to elaborate on your question, what you mean tips on short sales or pending divorces, I could I could I could speak to that a little bit more in detail. Anthony says many don't even know how to calculate how much their own businesses are costing. Yep. That's very true. And we either have to learn how to do that or we have to pay someone who does, or at least ask somebody who's started a business before. And we are definitely starting businesses when we are it's what I love it when we think that wholesaling is free, right? And wholesaling, clearly, you can knock on a door, tie up a house with a contract with no earnest money deposit, buy yourself minimum 5 days, but even 30 days of inspection and sell the contract, right? And literally do it with no money at all. You've got to get the lead somewhere, which typically costs money. Typically, you've got to buy a list. You can get free lists from the county records, or you can get free lists from your title companies, right? But they're less effective. They're less detailed. You don't have the ability to really, you can tell them what your search criteria is, and then someone else is pulling lists for you and sending it to you, and it's free, right? But you'd have to have the knowledge on what you're doing. Um, but realistically, when we're talking about wholesaling, especially in a wholesaling market, depending on when wholesaling is the best time to be wholesaling, right? We are now competing with people that have been doing it a long time, right? And then there's a lot of people trying to get into wholesaling because they learn that the idea is it's free. It doesn't cost any money to wholesale. But imagine opening a store, right, in the middle of a town where there are the same stores and you don't advertise at all. You don't even have a freaking storefront. You don't even have a name on your store, but you're selling sporting goods, right? And there's Dick's Favorite Sports down the road. There's Jimmy's ice skating shop. There's Sarah's tennis store, right? And they're marketing and selling and advertising, and they're putting things in the paper and social media, SEO, and all this stuff. And you're just sitting there. You might get some walk by traffic, but people are going to look at your store because you don't have any money to put a sign on and go, I wonder what's in this store. And 1 out of 20 might walk in the store, right? You're going to suck. You're probably going to not make enough money to cover your assets or your expenses. Same thing with wholesaling. You're competing against all these people paying all this money for no call voice or no voicemail calling, direct text messaging, yellow lettering, all of this stuff. And you plan on door knocking when everybody else is getting calls, and they got people on TV saying you can close. They got 72 sold who will sell your house and get you the fastest price in 3 days. And you've got Zillow and everybody else is going to be selling these people's houses, and they can stay in after they leave, after they sell, no closing costs, right? You're competing with all the same things, and they're paying retail for these houses. And you think because wholesaling's free, not you, but you know what I mean? They're teaching, you've got to have some money. You've got to have some marketing dollars. You've got to have some experience. You've got to have a leg up in some way. So anyway, that's my food for thought. We are a business, and it costs money to market. We just started looking into short sales because we come across a lot of people in foreclosure who are upside down. Okay. I would definitely watch the short sales class again, especially when a divorce is involved. I agree. So the problem with I like divorce and short sales. I've experienced a lot of it, but the two people need to be on educated simultaneously or separately. If there's no money in the house, then they sell the house, and there's no money to be split, right? There's no equity for them to split. So, um, then that's a good thing. When there's equity in the house, then someone's usually still in the house. There's kids involved, and the kids want to stay in the house. The parents want the kids, but then the other guy or girl that left, they want their half of the equity. Then someone's got to buy the other person out possibly, and it's hard because most people don't have any money to buy each other out. They'd have to give up other assets if they even have them. So that one's more tough. But when it is upside down, it's easier to get both parties on board to just let the house go into a short sale situation, and you can save credit and so on and forth. So we understand that there's a lot of benefits for a short sale for someone selling. So therefore, versus foreclosure. One thing I would be aware of is that there are a lot more rules around short sales with the debacle. One of them is you typically, I don't know the exact rule now, but you have to have a license, a real estate license, or be an attorney or some affiliation with the seller. I'm not 100% sure. And that's why watching the updated short sales class would be worth it. Most of the time, you've got to go through an agent representing the seller. A lot of times, the seller is going to be required by their lender or by the servicing company who checks with the lender that they have to put the house for sale on the market for a certain period of time before they'll accept an offer, in short. So um, it's I think it's harder and a longer process to get the short sale through. The other thing is the discounts, although they're good, they're not as you the ones you want to look for are FHA loans. FHA has the biggest discounts allowable in a short sale situation, up to 18%. But it has to be on the market, I think, for 90 days in order for them to take an 18% discount on the value. So if you're really good at meeting the BPO agent out at the house for the evaluation on behalf of the lender, and you can talk down the value of the home, you're still going to, then it might be worth in reality, 300,000, but you get a valuation of 270, and then you get a discount on 270. Now you can fix it up and sell it for 320. Then you've got a 60, $70,000 spread there. When you only need 20 to 30 grand to fix it, you might be able to make 20 grand. So you got to watch, you got to look at that. Back in the day, I was getting, we were sometimes getting BPOs to come in so low that I was getting 50, 60,000 off realistic values of today's date if I were to just sell it right then. And then I'd get the bank to discount that value as in addition, because the bank literally isn't in the town. They don't know what the true value is. They paid the BPO agent to give them the true value of the house. So I'm beating up the value all day long at the property. And I'm saying my number three, four, not three or four, 10 or 20 times in the 30 minutes he's doing an evaluation on the house, or she, and getting them to come in at that value. And if it comes in at 50 grand below what I already know its really street value is, then I get a discount on top of it. So there you have that. I like the idea of short sales because typically you're not in competition. People stray away from them because most of the time they're not going to get them improved. The good news is with our class is that if you do it the way they teach it, you have all your ducks in a row already. You'll get the approval, right? As long as the value's there and you're within the discount allowable by that lender, I mean, in your offer, then as long as you have the paperwork in order and the hardship letters there and all those things are in order and they have it all, you'll get the approval. Most people's agents don't know how to do it. They just don't deal with it. Nor do they want to spend the time. They're making less money on a short sale. It takes them twice as long, and they never even know if it's going to close because by the time then the buyer usually walks away. We're not going to walk away. We'll just keep at it because it's no skin off our back. We don't care if it closes tomorrow or in 6 months from now, as long as we get the right deal. Yeah. Um, but if you pull a divorce list, if you've got divorcees and you've got upside down property, it's kind of a double win right there. If you can get to both, you can tell both, you know, uh, parties that you can help their credit. Problem is they probably have credit cards that they're not paying anymore, so they don't really give a shit about their credit anymore, but you'd have to get to them before that happens. You could technically negotiate on behalf of their credit cards if you wanted to. I've done it with the IRS, everybody for them. Perfect. You're so welcome. Awesome. I hope that helps. Just checking. That's cool. Yeah. I don't know if you've got my number, but I'll put it in the chat. If anybody ever needs to call me, or text me, I can elaborate a little bit more. But yeah, I'm here. Anytime you guys need more information. I do like short sale. I haven't done one in a while, but they will offer 1K for referrals, even though their programs are 20K. Okay, I didn't know that. I wonder what program that is. Yeah, typically that's hard. I didn't know that, Steve, because typically there has to be some contract. You know what I mean? You can't just pay for referrals in any situation unless they're just doing it under the table. You know what I mean? Because you either have a contract or a license, because you can't just write it off then, right? If they're paying thousands of people $1,000 at a time to bring over referrals and they don't have it documented, they can't deduct that as an expense. I don't, you know what I mean? Anyway, maybe they have a way around it. I don't know. Just food for thought. It's hard to believe they do that, but yeah. Okay, so where are we? Most other programs only focus on a single strategy. Yep. Right. But they try to, which makes sense, right? If they're selling one strategy, there's no choice. They're working on a strategy that is good for that time frame, and then they focus on another strategy. You know what I mean? Like, exactly, but I know what you're saying. But the other major guys have full curriculums, Trump and Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, they all have major curriculums too. But some of the newbies specialize in one type of product. You're exactly right. But they have some stuff that supports it. But it's just not nearly, um, yeah, we all know the guru system. But the gurus sell a lot of stuff. I think I got everything. I'd love uh yeah. Who's doing yeah. I think I covered most everything. I got 8:11. I got a few more minutes if you guys and girls want. If there's anything else that you want to cover, um, LOL. NODs, notice as a default. Yeah. Um, I guess he's referring to a list. Anyway, I would look to I mention this all the time. Steve Nomura, probably one of the best students we have in Renatus. Guy's a machine. Just, I think he's very intelligent. Um, he's got some unmatched intelligence. He's very driven, motivated, very calculated. So it's, not that we compare, but you know what I'm saying? So he's got some advantages, but he's very smart, and he spends a lot of time understanding lenders, calling on lenders, understanding what they pay, what they charge, what they offer. And I think it's critical that we understand good leverage and good debt, and that we set ourselves up for success when it comes to starting a business and starting in real estate, or even scaling your real estate. I'm sure many of you have done deals, but you know, uh, money isn't always an issue for deals, right? For the deal itself, especially if we find a decent deal, not a great deal, but even a decent deal. There are people that have money that want to invest in real estate, and you can secure it and all the tax, all that crap. But business is another thing, right? Uh, money, money isn't always easy to come by when you're behind the eight ball, when you've got to put someone in second or third position, when you have to, you know, try to finish a deal that isn't going to sell for much, or you've had it for a while. When you've got a major issue with a property that you own that needs a major overhaul, like a new AC unit or something like that. Money, and that's business expenses, right? That is not, you know what I mean? If you're making $200 a month on a property, on a door, right? And so you're making $1,200 or $2,400 a year. Let's just say after expenses, even like full net, cash in pocket, and you have to replace an AC. That could be 2 years, at least a year's profit on that deal, right? So who wants to do that? Like nobody. You get the write off of, now you got a loss and blah, 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 but you're there to make money, right? So I like rentals in areas that appreciate. I like buying rentals that need help fixing them up so I can force some appreciation, right? And then I like rentals where I can put no money into them. So I buy them low enough, fix them up, and increase the rents. And then I can do a cash out debt service coverage ratio loan, kind of like the Burr method. And then I just own the property. So if the thing doesn't cash flow and I got to pay for an AC unit, who cares? I got equity, my net worth goes up. I can leverage it later on and or sell it for a profit, a large profit, right? In a couple years. I like appreciating markets. So, but it's a business. So, I like having an American Express Gold card that is flexible on how I pay things back. So if I have to pay for an AC unit, I'm not paying for the cash in my checking account, right? I'm using credit. Anyway, um, or I'm borrowing business money, from banks at 6% cheap. Anyway, a lot of our marketing leads tell us they're getting the MLM vibe when they come to events and they aren't interested anymore. Any advice on how to overcome that, or we just need to keep moving forward? Well, yes and no. Um, Boy, it's hard. There's just no way around it. We are an MLM, right? I don't know, for lack of a better term. We're a network marketing, right? We are a direct sales company. We get paid to enroll students in our education. So we kind of have to figure out what the best way is for us to be able to share that information with people that we're introducing to the company. That's like a sidebar, right? And there's no question that, you know, okay, so what next, right? And you can go with the next mentality. The problem is, um, is that objection is an easy objection, not to overcome necessarily, but for someone to have, because they can immediately say no to a $25,000 price tag, even a $2,000 price tag, which is still a lot of money for a lot of people in the beginning, especially with their mindset. Uh, then the minute they see an MLM twist to it, it's an easy excuse to get out, right? To say no. Oh, I don't feel bad saying no to her because it's an MLM, right? If it wasn't an MLM, they've got to come up with another reason without saying, I'm broke, I'm scared, I don't want to spend that kind of money. I would never be able to spend that kind of money. I don't think I'd be good at this, and I would fail and then I'd lose my money, right? These are all the real reasons people don't do it. It's not because there's an MLM. The MLM is the easy excuse as one of them. The spouse is another one. We know all the, it's just a reason why they can say no. It's an easy one. So, and it's believable. And it's one that we're like, oh, that's kind of true. It is an MLM, you know what I mean? But I guess the way to overcome it perhaps is like just asking questions, right? Do you want to do an MLM? Like, are you interested in marketing and making sales? No, no, I think it's wrong. I don't, I've heard of all these people, blah, 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 whatever their answer is. Okay, so you're not interested in like marketing it or making sales or anything. Are you interested in like learning to do real estate or like doing fix and flips, or, what are you interested in? Well, yeah, that's why I came here, or that's why I was asking you, what is it? I'm definitely interested in learning. Okay, so if I told you that you didn't have to sell it, but you could get the best education on the planet, would that make a difference? Right? So right away, we can have them tell us the answer that we already know the answer to, which is one, they don't want to sell it. They don't want to be a part of it. They don't have to be, right? We already know this. But if we're just like, listen, don't worry about it, you don't have to do it, then we're telling them what they do and don't have to do, right? They're not telling us, right? But when we're asking questions and we're having them tell us, no, I don't want to market. Yes, I wish I could just study the education. Then we're like, good, that's what you can do. And then they're like, oh, right. And now they don't have an excuse. They got to come up with another excuse not to move forward with at least doing more due diligence on the Renatus education, because they've already debunked their own excuse by saying, no, I don't want to do it, but I wish I could see the education without having a sales piece. Cool. Don't come to the events. You'll never know about the sales event. You don't even have to join the community. You can do whatever you want. You have a choice. And you clearly told me what your choice is. Would you like to see a little bit more about the education? and never hear about the MLM part of it again. Okay, I'll do that. Right. So that would be the way you could probably, overcome it. Although it's easier said than done, of course. And, that was a simple role play because I didn't actually have a human being over there. And I would probably be nervous too. And also be like, I want to punch you in the face. Why do you care if it's an MLM? You could make money and feed your real estate business, is what I'd like to say. But instead, I'm going to be like, oh, you're right. Yeah, it's an MLM. Because I did it too. We all do it, right? So it's much easier when you get the right people, like you said, Henri, and you went on to the next person, and the person's like, they don't care like us. They're like, oh, that's cool, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm really interested in the education. And then they can move forward easier without having to overcome that objection. Unfortunately, all the people that we invite, 99% of them are in the 99%, and parting with 2 grand to 25 grand is heartbreaking and not a normal thing. And we're going to have to overcome their objections, which means we're going to have to be better salespeople. It is going to be hard for us to come up with the people that are like us, that are look at it and go, I have no money, excuse me, but I'm willing to go borrow 20 grand and risk everything and my marriage to do this Renatus thing, right? That's 1 in 100, right? The other people, we've got to sell them. We've got to get good at sales. We've got to get objections, and we've got to spend time with them, and we've got to overcome all that crap. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, you're welcome. Unfortunately. But the good news is that people are stuck in the 99%, because if they weren't, we wouldn't have anything to sell them. They'd all be rich. Or we'd be in some socialist bullcrap economy or society where everybody's equal and, nobody needs to get ahead and nobody cares about retirement because they're all going to be given, a handout the rest of their life by the government. And then we'd have no business. We'd all be socialites or whatever the heck they call us. I don't know. So the good news is there's a 99% to sell to, and we can all, prosper while we're helping others.
Yeah, one thing that helped me in these observations that my customers would make is, yeah, I get the MLM thing. We're not quite an MLM, but the good news is that because of this distribution method, we can sell our $100,000 product for only 25 grand.
That's a great point.
So, yeah, our CEO picked the model that keeps the price for our end customer, which was me at one point, and Bill and you, at a very affordable price. And so this is the distribution mode that he picked. And then if you go ask any, university professor on economics and marketing, they're going to tell you word of mouth is still the best, most powerful way to grow a biz. So our CEO picked the cheapest one for our customers and the fastest one to grow. So you're welcome.
Very good point, Mike. That helps too.
Yeah. And then, like what you were saying earlier about separating them. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But for sure, if you don't buy real estate, you're going to regret it.
Yep.
You've seen those little memes where there's it's set in like the 1950s and there's 3 kids sitting on the dad's lap and a little quote. It says, "Hey dad, how come we're still poor?" And then it'll say, "Because I didn't lock in the 2025 real estate market." Because I didn't watch my classes. You got to watch classes. You got to network. You got to get the word out there about what your business does. Stop. One thing that made a big difference for me was I stopped being an auto mechanic that has a real estate ambition to just being a real estate investing business owner. And you act differently when that happens. You sign off on emails differently. You shake hands differently when you meet other CEOs. So,
Michael, did you see that question?
let's see. Okay, so one thing that is a fine line between what we do and MLMs is a forever upline versus being capped at 3. We follow the insurance industry model. So there's a senior broker and a junior broker, and that junior broker has to sell so many policies that he'll split with the senior broker until they until they level up. They hit that number, whatever it is, 100 policies, 200 policies, whatever. So it really more mimics insurance and car dealerships too. You have the veteran car salesman and you got the rookie car salesman.
Yeah, and they do
And
splits all the time. Even if
yeah,
the rookie car salesman gets the up, he's got to split it with the senior salesperson, has to come in, close the business, help them out, teach them, mentor them, and they're not doing it for free. And a lot of times they do it for 80%, not 50%. Even if that junior guy gets the up, right?
yep,
And an up,
yeah,
they call an up when someone walks up on the lot and they pick them up. They go out, see them first, and they actually make a sale. Hey, welcome to what are you looking for today? And it's just some rookie who's out there, and the senior's in sitting down drinking his coffee, and then he's called upon to go close the deal and introduce him to the financing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So unless we're going to call every car dealership an MLM and every insurance brokerage an MLM, we're not an MLM.
Yeah, even real estate brokers, same thing. You got to get to a
Yeah,
point before you're splitting because you're getting mentored and trained. But once you hit the level, you're good forever. But not an MLM. We pay everybody in an MLM. You're paying everybody forever. You know what I mean? And we don't have any quotas. You have no monthly quotas. If you stop hitting a spot, you don't fall all the way back down. You stay at your spot whether you make a sale for a year or 5 years or 1 month. You're always at the level you reach, right? Which not in an
yeah,
MLM. You don't make any sales, you go right back down to the bottom, right? You got to keep other people underneath you making sales or you fall back down in rank, right? We don't have that.
yeah. So many distinctions between MLMs and what we do, but some overlap because we do word of mouth distribution. That's mostly where people get the confusion.
Yep. And we do a direct sale, which is mostly what everybody does in MLMs too. You make that first initial direct sale.
Yeah, yeah. And then jokingly, like if someone comes, hands on their hips, hey, I came for real estate and this is MLM. And I'll be like, MLM, what's MLM? And they'll say multi-level. And I'll be like, you mean like a 3-story? Like a 3-story building, a 4-story building? What do you mean multi-level? This is real estate. And just totally take them off of that because yeah, it's just a silly accusation.
Yeah.
And then
Doing
one thing
even,
that helped
oh, sorry.
say it again.
What Michael's doing, even though he's joking, is he's asking questions, right? Well, what do you mean? Why is it? You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they got to defend their easy way out of being, you know, saying no, having an excuse, trying to make an impression, and asking questions just makes people think. It makes people have to evaluate what they're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then just remembering too that like when you go to the grocery store and you get your milk and your bread, that grocery store is earning a profit, right? So everywhere the one of the motives is to earn a profit. So would you be upset if instead of it was, Smith's or Albertsons or Publix, if it was the Huggins grocery store and I made a profit off the bread and the milk? Would you have a problem with it? So just because you can see the owner making a profit, right, which would be you own your ICM business, you own that, and so you would be making a profit off distributing other people's products, like a grocery store does. It's just you get to know me versus me, sitting in some high tower somewhere not knowing. It's okay to make a profit, and it's okay to meet the person that's making the profit. Perfect. Steve says, so we are affiliate marketing or an education program with an income opportunity, asking for the people who want to portray the proper identity. I would focus on the second one. We're an education program with an income opportunity. I mean, technically, they're both the same. You sign up as an affiliate. But the emphasis is not on affiliate marketing. The emphasis is on selling our product, which is education. The other thing I tell people too is I own 2 businesses. I own a real estate investing business, and I own a marketing firm. And so depending on who you're talking to, which hat I'm wearing is what answer you're going to get. But if you're here to talk about real estate, you're talking to the real estate CEO. If you're here to talk about marketing, you're talking to the marketing CEO. Same guy.
And it also depends on your marketing efforts, right? If you're talking to someone at a networking event and they're there to make money and start a business, then you have a business opportunity to offer them. But if you're at a real estate networking event, people are looking to do real estate and you're at a fix and flip, you know what I mean? Then you're talking about, hey, I've got this real estate stuff that they can see, you know what I mean? So it all depends on who we're marketing to, where you're placing your advertisements and what your advertisements are trying to find.
Right? It's not who you know, it's how they know you.
Cool.
So, yeah. And the other thing to remind yourself is to be proud of being in the network marketing industry. It's made the most millionaires. It's made the most revenue by any sort of business. I have some old numbers from 2020, but it's something like $250 billion of revenue in America go to network marketing and word of mouth distributors. So be proud to be in the industry style that benefits the most people. The direct marketer wins, the company who produced the product wins, and the end customer who's getting a cheaper product, not lower quality, but less expensive product because of these other two working, they all win. So be proud to be in that industry. Everybody wins in this style, which is why Bob picked it. So go tell more people.
Perfect.
Yep. Multiple streams of income, folks.
All right.
Awesome.
Great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Corinne and Eric and Tim and Steve, Scott, and all you guys for participating.
Aubrey.
Michelle, Aubrey, Gilda.
Yeah, glad you were here.
Definitely. Anthony, Doug, all of you beautiful people.
Hey.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a fantastic takeoff Tuesday. Let's go use these ideas and this conversation to communicate what we're offering and how we can absolutely maximize the next 6 to 12 months and beyond. But for the new people, they need to know what kind of result can I get in the next 6 to 12 months, and share your stories, build for the events, and follow up. Okay. Awesome.
Thanks.
If you need us, call us.
All right.
See you soon.
Thanks,
Bye for
everybody.
now.
Good day.